Hey guys, what is up? My name is PandaMaster, and welcome to my spoiler-free review of Dead Pigs. So, this, if you were not aware, is a 2018 comedy drama film written and directed by Cathy Yan. So, you might recognize her as the director of Birds of Prey, her movie from last year. So this was actually the first film that she directed. It was her feature film debut, but it was released at Sundance in 2018. Then it was released in China in 2019, and now it is finally available to watch worldwide by Mubi. Just came out on Friday, and I was really excited to watch this because I'm a big fan of Birds of Prey, and I was excited to see, this her first movie essentially, and so. For those who don't know who she is, Cathy Yan is a Chinese American screenwriter slash director, and so she, was born in China, and so this has a lot of, significance to her. And basically, what this movie is about is it follows these 5 people and basically how their lives interconnect following an incident where thousands of dead pigs are floating in the rivers of Shanghai. And so this is a really interesting film. First off, one of the things I loved most about Birds of Prey was the score. I think that the soundtrack to the film is really well done, and I think there's a lot of really interesting music choices in that movie. And Dead Pigs follows the same thing, that is Cathy Yan's style, right? I think she wants different, she wants unique, and I think there's a lot of really interesting music choices in this film that I don't think are bad. There is one point in the third act where it gets almost like a musical, and it was really weird, and I'd say my biggest issue with this film is it can feel disjointed at times, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But there are plenty of really, really good moments in the film where the music is intertwined with the narrative going on that is just so well done. Specifically, at the bridge between the second and third acts, there's a really, really good scene where the music directly corresponds to what's going on in the world. And there are other films that do this, obviously, but I love when films do this, right? I think it's a really, really cool tool to engage all the senses in terms, as many as you can in a film, right? Towards one thing, because it helps accentuate that thing you're trying to get to the audience. And so I think the music is really, really well done here. Don't know if it says here. Music was by Andrew Orkin, so props to him, and I'm sure, like I said, Birds of Prey has a very similar vibe to it, so I'm sure Cathy Yan had plenty of, she had a hand, I'm sure, in, choosing what fits what. Especially with how interwoven the music for the film is in the narrative and the storytelling and the cinematography and just all of that, and how it is interconnected. I think it's all put together very, very well. So, first off, great job with Cathy Yan. I think the direction is probably the best aspect of this film. And so Cathy Yan continues. Well, I shouldn't say continues because this was her first movie, but strong start for her. Can't wait to see what she does next. Oh wait, but yeah, congrats to her. Really, really great job. But onto my, I guess, one thing. So this is one of those types of movies where it's like we have 5 separate stories that start to connect into one another and become one story. It's one of those types of films, right? This isn't the first time we've seen it, but I think what happens is some of the characters are not as essential as others. So who I'm referencing here is Sean Landry, who is an architect for the Golden Happiness, sorry, lost train of thought. But she's the architect for basically this housing company that is attempting to build some, I guess, houses or something along those lines in Shanghai, right? Without going into spoilers, he is the lead architect, and so with that, I think his story. I mean, not that he doesn't have an important role. There are some things that happen specifically with him that aren't connected to anybody else, where it's like, I can kind of see where she was going with it, but overall it just kind of seemed like fluff. And in that other sense, Candy Wang, who could probably be described as the main character of this film, there are some things that happen with her that it's like they're just kind of there as sort of like, and I don't want to say, because I don't think they're filler, right? I don't think this movie necessarily has stuff that like were intentionally put there to add length to the film. That's just kind of how it feels, because I don't know if maybe scenes were cut, or I don't know, they don't land well, where there's things that it's just like, when you're making a film all about interconnectivity and how everything is all sort of working together in unison, which I think is a fairly common theme for Eastern media, which I really like. There are some things that do feel disjointed there, and like there's another character, I think you pronounce it Gia. Again, apologies for my pronunciation. Where her, I mean, they successfully connect her to the rest of the film, but her storyline specifically doesn't really have any resolution. And I think the final act, really, it's like there is an ending, but it's not really a satisfying one. I mean, there's some stuff that happens where you get sort of a some sort of conclusiveness to it, but it's overall not satisfying, and not in a way that's like, oh well, that's life, but in a way that's like, it doesn't feel natural. Like, and I'm saying this in the most spoiler-free terms that I can, but it just, the way characters react to events that happen in the third act just doesn't feel like how things would actually go, I guess. And it's like, one of the things that Cathy Yan seems to, and maybe I'm reading too much into it, but I think it's very difficult with Chinese media to critique big things in terms of politics or economics or things like that, because of the censorship that goes on there. I don't mean any disrespect to anyone here, but that is something that's very well known about censorship in China. And so I was trying to tell if Cathy Yan was making any sort of social commentary. I mean, obviously there is social commentary, but I guess in the extent of saying something about the government or law enforcement or different things like that. And it's like, I almost wonder if this movie may have had a better conclusion if not for fear of repercussions from that. I don't think there's anything extremely, protest deal. I don't think that's a word, but I'm going to say that is, in this film. I don't think there's anything super, like, revolutionary in terms of, she's not saying, like, ACAB or, Chinese government sucks. Like, there's nothing like that in this film. But it's almost like she wanted to include something along those lines, but didn't, and it's just like, I don't know, something is off about the third act to me. I think it's a really strong film. I don't think it's a bad film in any way, but there's something about the storytelling that just seems off, and I have to wonder if it has something to do with the restrictions that go on in Chinese media. And so I don't know if it is or not, but either way, I think this is a really, really good film about, just talking about the social economics of China and, the wealth inequality and how people live their lives and all this stuff. And also, this is inspired by a real life incident. This isn't like a biographical drama by any means. basically there was an incident in 2013 where a river was filled with dead pigs, and so but I think there's some really interesting stuff here, and I think it's a good film. I really do. Like I said, I think Cathy Yan is a really good director, and she I'm really excited to see what she does come up with next. You know, now that she's done with Birds of Prey, and just see where she goes next, because I think she has some real talent here. I just think, you know, in terms of this, I'm curious, and I would love to honestly like talk to her about it. Like I'd be like, you know, was there any sort of resistance from China, right, towards this? And again, there's nothing radical here, but I'm curious if there was, if, you know, that sort of very clearly, I mean, everyone knows, especially people working in Chinese media, about censorship and that sort of thing. I'm curious if that affected the screenplay or, you know, events that happen in the film, because something does feel off about the ending. But I think it's a great film. I think you guys should watch it if you have access to Mubi. How I watched it, it's a channel on Amazon Prime, so if you don't want to add another subscription service, right, you know, you can get a free trial on Amazon Prime. It's one of the channels there. That's how I consumed it. But yeah, I think it's a great film. I think it's cool to watch, especially, you know, let's make foreign films more accessible, right? I think that, I mean, there's been a lot of really cool foreign films this year already. We've got this, I recently watched Saint Maud, which is from the UK, and I know it's in English, but I'll have a review up for that shortly, actually. And what was another one that I watched? Frick. There's another one. I know there is. Maybe not. Maybe I'm just thinking shows. Yeah, I think I've only watched shows, because like Lupin, or Lupin, great show on Netflix. 30 Coins, my favorite show on television right now. You know, let's get foreign media more out into the spotlight. Do that. It's good stuff. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought of Dead Pigs down in the comments below. Like if you like this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you guys next time for whatever it is I'm doing. Alright, see ya.